I feel like that cheers was about Chris.
Yeah, it was. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
I just flew around the world, but you're toasting to your
I
buddy
want to talk
over.
about my ex, and I don't want to hear about your ex.
Because you hiding your ex.
No, it's
Look
not
what
that
you
I'm
did.
hiding.
You went
I
to
just
Colombia for your
I
ex.
just don't feel like it should.
Joshua's voice cracks as he admits he's hiding things, but before anyone can process that, Rick is already losing it over something so small, you'd think he dropped his phone in the toilet. This isn't the kind of drama you can scroll past. Welcome to Reality Sport. I'm Aliva, and if you're ready for the wildest ride on 90 Day Fiancé, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments, who do you think is hiding the most? Because tonight, secrets are currency, and trust is running on fumes. Elise steps off a 14-hour flight, mascara smudged, heart pounding, suitcase in hand, expecting her boyfriend to sweep her into his arms. Instead, she's greeted by Joshua, looking like he's headed to a job interview, and Chris, who's apparently glued to Joshua's side like a buy one, get one free deal. Elisa's smile falters for a split second, but she pushes through, trying to convince herself this is normal. Joshua barely notices, too busy making sure Chris is comfortable in the back seat. The air is thick with awkwardness, and Elisa's jet lag is nothing compared to the exhaustion of realizing she's not the main character in her own love story. Joshua's priorities are on full display. He's missed the Melbourne Cup, lost money, and instead of focusing on Elise, he's more concerned about Chris's disappointment. Elise tries to laugh it off, but you can see the questions flicker across her face. Why is Chris here? Why does Joshua act like this is a boys' trip with a girlfriend as an afterthought? The tension is subtle but sharp, like a paper cut you don't notice until it stings. Elise wants to believe this is just a rocky start, but the seeds of doubt are already planted. Chris, meanwhile, is the ever-present third wheel, chiming in with jokes and inside references that leave Elise on the outside looking in. Joshua doesn't seem to notice, or maybe he doesn't care. Elise tries to insert herself, but every attempt is met with a wall of shared history between the two men. It's clear this isn't the first time Joshua has prioritized his friendship over his relationship, and Elise is left wondering if she's competing for attention she'll never fully win. The car ride is a masterclass in discomfort. Joshua and Chris banter about missed bets and lost races, while Elise sits quietly, clutching her phone, replaying every conversation they had before she booked her ticket. She thought she was flying toward a new beginning, but now she's not sure if she's landed in the middle of someone else's story. The triangle is set, and the stakes are higher than anyone wants to admit. Joshua's confession hangs in the air, unspoken but heavy. He's hiding something, and Elise can feel it in every awkward pause, every sidelong glance between the two men. Chris's constant presence isn't just inconvenient, it's suspicious. Why does Joshua need a buffer? What's he afraid Elise will see if they're alone? The questions pile up, and Elise's doubts grow louder with every mile they drive away from the airport. Elise tries to convince herself that she's overthinking, that jet lag is making her paranoid, but the warning signs are impossible to ignore. She watches Joshua and Chris laugh about missing the race, about losing money, about how the day didn't go as planned, and she wonders if she's the only one who feels like something is off. Every time she tries to steer the conversation toward their relationship, Joshua pivots back to Chris, or to some story about partying with clients, or to the next round of drinks. Elise forces a smile, but inside, she's cataloging every red flag, every moment that doesn't add up. She wants to believe that Joshua is just nervous, that he's trying to make everyone comfortable, but the truth is harder to swallow. She's not his priority, and maybe she never was. Joshua's lifestyle is impossible to hide. He talks about late nights, about taking clients out on boats, about how socializing is part of his job. Chris jumps in to defend him, painting a picture of a man who's always in demand, always the life of the party. But Elise hears something different. She hears a man who's almost 40, who can't afford his own place, who's one mistake away from losing his job because he crashed a boat after a night out. She hears excuses, not explanations. She's been here before. listening to a man justify his chaos, hoping he'll change for her, hoping this time will be different. The memories of her past relationships creep in, uninvited. She remembers the fiancé who stole her identity, the engagements that ended in disaster, the promises that turned to dust. She promised herself she'd never ignore the signs again, never let hope blind her to reality. But here she is, halfway around the world, watching history repeat itself in real time. She wants to believe in Joshua, to believe that love can change people, but the evidence is stacked against her. The audience can feel her frustration, can see the cycle spinning up again, and it's hard not to want to reach through the screen and shake her awake. Elise tries to focus on the positives, on the moments when Joshua looks at her like she's the only person in the room, on the way he thanks her for making the trip, on the promises he makes about their future. But every sweet word is undercut by another red flag, another moment where she's left out, another reminder that she's not the only one vying for Joshua's attention. She tells herself she's strong, that she can handle this, that she's not the same woman she was before. But the doubts are louder than ever, and the stakes feel higher with every passing hour. The question hangs over everything. Will Elise finally break the pattern, or is she about to fall into the same trap all over again? The answer isn't clear, and the tension is only getting thicker. Glasses clink, but the moment is all wrong. Joshua raises his drink, looks right past Elise, and toasts Chris for showing up. Elise blinks, waiting for her turn, but it never comes. She's flown across the world, left her comfort zone, and all she gets is a front row seat to the Joshua and Chris show. Joshua grins, oblivious, while Chris shifts in his seat, suddenly aware that he's the star of a scene he never auditioned for. Elise forces a laugh, but her eyes say everything: hurt, confusion, and a flicker of anger she tries to swallow. Joshua doesn't notice. He's too busy reliving the day's chaos, too wrapped up in his own world to see the woman sitting right next to him. Chris tries to lighten the mood, cracks a joke about being the third wheel, but it lands flat. The silence that follows is heavy, and Elise feels it settle on her shoulders. She wonders if she's invisible, if Joshua even remembers why she's here. The audience feels it too, the sting of being overlooked, the frustration of watching someone settle for crumbs when they deserve the whole cake. Elise's reaction is a masterclass in restraint. She doesn't make a scene, doesn't call Joshua out, but the disappointment is written all over her face. She tries to remind herself that it's just one moment, that maybe Joshua is nervous, that maybe tomorrow will be different. But the truth is, this isn't new. Joshua has always put Chris first, always made space for his best friend, even when it means pushing Elise to the sidelines. The question isn't whether Joshua cares about Elise, it's whether he's capable of putting her first, of showing up for her in the ways that matter. Chris, for his part, looks like he wants to disappear. He knows he's intruding, knows this isn't how things are supposed to go, but he doesn't know how to fix it. The awkwardness is thick enough to cut with a knife, and everyone at the table feels it. The audience can't help but root for Elise, can't help but hope she'll stand up for herself, demand the respect she deserves. But for now, she sits quietly, waiting for Joshua to notice her, to choose her, to make her feel like she matters. How many times does someone have to be overlooked before they finally speak up? Elise is reaching her limit, and the next move could change everything. Elise drags her suitcase into the apartment, expecting at least a cozy welcome after the long flight. But what she gets is a cramped space that feels more like a college crash pad than a romantic getaway. The bathroom is barely big enough to turn around in, and the living room is cluttered with signs of Joshua and Chris's bachelor life. Elise tries to keep her cool, telling herself it's temporary, but the disappointment is hard to hide. She's not picky, but after everything she's already put up with, this feels like another sign that Joshua didn't plan for her comfort at all. Then comes the real shock. Elise walks into the bedroom and freezes. There, hanging above the bed, is a framed photo of Chris, grinning like he owns the place. It's not a joke, it's not a quirky inside reference, it's a reminder that even in the most private space, Joshua's priorities are somewhere else. Elise laughs, but it's forced, and she asks if maybe her picture could go up instead. Joshua waves her off, making a joke about how the photo brings good luck, but the humor falls flat. Elise's attempt to assert herself is brushed aside, and the discomfort in the room grows thicker. Joshua doesn't see the problem. He thinks it's funny, another story to tell, but Elise is left wondering if she's ever going to be more than a guest in Joshua's life. She tries to explain how it makes her feel, but Joshua shrugs it off, more interested in keeping things light than in listening to her concerns. Chris, caught in the middle, tries to make himself scarce, but his presence is everywhere, from the living room to the bedroom wall. Elise feels like she's competing with a ghost, and the more she tries to carve out space for herself, the more obvious it becomes that Joshua isn't ready to let go of his old life. The apartment is a physical reminder of everything Elise is up against. Joshua's reluctance to grow up, his attachment to Chris, his inability to make her feel at home. She wants to believe it's just a rough start, that things will get better, but every detail tells a different story. The question lingers. Is Joshua hiding more than just bad taste in decor? Elise is starting to wonder if she's the only one who sees the problem, or if she's about to discover a whole new set of secrets. Joshua leans back on the couch, talking about his job like it's a non-stop party, dropping hints about wild nights out, endless socializing, and the thrill of being the guy everyone wants to hang with. Elise listens, trying to hide how much it stings. She didn't fly across the world for another round of bar hopping or to watch her boyfriend relive his 20s with his best friend. She wants quiet nights, real conversations, and a partner who's ready to build something solid. Every time Joshua talks about his lifestyle, Elise feels the gap between them widen, and it's not just about age or money, it's about what they want from life. Chris jumps in, eager to defend Joshua, painting him as a hard worker who's just doing what he needs to do to get ahead. He jokes about the perks of the job, the clients, the parties, but Elise hears the excuses behind every word. She's heard it all before. Men who promise they'll settle down, who say they're ready for something real, but never actually change. Joshua tries to reassure her, saying she's enough reason to slow down, but the words sound empty, like he's reading from a script he doesn't believe. Elise wants to trust him, but every promise feels like a placeholder. Something to keep her from asking too many questions. The more Elise opens up about what she wants, the more obvious it becomes that Joshua isn't listening. She talks about wanting to stay in, about building a life together, about leaving the party scene behind. Joshua nods, but his eyes drift to Chris, to his phone, to anything but her. Elise feels exposed, vulnerable, like she's asking for too much when all she wants is a little stability. She's tired of being the only adult in the room, tired of hoping someone will grow up for her sake. The longing for maturity is written all over her face, but Joshua can't or won't meet her there. The tension is thick, and Elise is left wondering if she's asking for the impossible. Can Joshua really change, or is she setting herself up for heartbreak all over again? The answer feels just out of reach, and every moment they spend together makes it harder to ignore the truth. If you think Elise is about to give up, you haven't seen what happens when the night takes a turn and secrets start to slip through the cracks. Night settles in, but there's no comfort in the air. Elise changes into her pajamas, careful not to make too much noise, while Joshua lingers in the hallway, caught between wanting to say goodnight and not knowing how. The plan is clear. Joshua will sleep on the couch, Elise gets the bed, and Chris is somewhere in the mix, always close enough to remind everyone that privacy is a luxury. Joshua tries to play it cool, but the disappointment is written all over his face. He wanted this night to go differently, but every move he makes seems to push Elise further away. Elise senses the tension and decides to have a little fun, saying goodnight in a way that leaves Joshua speechless. She flashes a smile, a hint of mischief in her eyes, but it's clear she's testing the boundaries, seeing if Joshua will finally step up or keep hiding behind jokes and distractions. Joshua laughs, but it's forced, and the silence that follows is heavy. He watches Elise disappear into the bedroom, then slumps onto the couch, staring at the ceiling like it holds all the answers he's too afraid to say out loud. Alone with the camera, Joshua finally lets his guard down. He admits he's worried that there are things about his life he hasn't told Elise, things he's not sure she'll accept. The words hang in the air, raw and honest, and for the first time, the audience sees the cracks in Joshua's confident facade. He wants to be the guy Elise believes in, but he's not sure he can live up to it. The secrets he's keeping feel bigger in the dark, and the fear of losing Elise is starting to outweigh the comfort of hiding. The anticipation builds, and viewers are left guessing. What is Joshua hiding? Is it another woman, a financial disaster, or something even messier? The possibilities swirl, and every glance, every awkward pause feels loaded with meaning. Elise is in the next room, blissfully unaware, but the truth is closer than she thinks. The question isn't if she'll find out, but when, and what she'll do when the pieces finally fall into place. Rick's jaw tightens as Trisha mentions a restaurant she used to visit with her ex, and in an instant, the mood shifts from hopeful to hostile. The cab is barely moving, but Rick's temper is already racing ahead, fueled by a jealousy that makes every word sound like an accusation. Trisha tries to explain, her voice soft and tired, that she only brought up the place because she likes the food, not because she's stuck in the past. But Rick isn't listening. He's locked in, eyes narrowed, convinced that every mention of her ex is a personal attack, a sign that he'll never measure up. The audience can see it coming, the way Rick's insecurity turns a harmless comment into a full-blown crisis, the way he twists Trisha's words until she's apologizing for things she never did. Trisha's exhaustion is written in the slump of her shoulders, the way she stares out the window instead of meeting Rick's glare. She's been here before, walking on eggshells, trying to keep the peace while Rick picks fights over nothing. The gaslighting is subtle, but relentless. Rick accuses her of hiding things, of caring more about her ex than about him, of not being committed enough to their relationship. He spins the story so fast that even Trisha starts to question herself, wondering if she's the problem, if she's the one who keeps messing things up. The audience knows better, but it's hard not to feel the frustration, the helplessness of watching someone you care about get pulled into a fight they never asked for. Rick's victim complex is on full display. He talks about how hard it is for him, how much he's sacrificed, how he's always the one getting hurt. He paints himself as the misunderstood hero, the guy who's just trying to do the right thing, but can't catch a break. Trisha tries to reassure him, to remind him that she's here, that she chose him, but Rick isn't satisfied. He wants more. More apologies, more proof, more control. The looming family meeting hangs over them like a storm cloud, and Rick's anxiety is starting to seep into every conversation. He asks Trisha if she's sure she wants him to meet her parents, if she's ready for that step, but the question isn't about her. It's about him. About his fear of being exposed, of not living up to the image he's tried so hard to create. Trisha's attempts to keep the peace are heartbreaking. She offers to skip the family dinner, to stay in and talk things out, to do whatever it takes to make Rick feel secure. But every olive branch she extends is met with suspicion, with another round of accusations, with another reminder that nothing she does will ever be enough. The audience can see the toll it's taking on her, the way her spirit dims a little more with every argument, the way she starts to shrink into herself, trying to avoid setting Rick off again. It's a cycle that's all too familiar, and the frustration is palpable. Rick's manipulation is almost impressive in its audacity. He manages to turn every conversation back on Trisha, making her feel guilty for things she can't control, for feelings she doesn't have, for mistakes she never made. He talks about commitment, about trust, about how hard it is to be vulnerable, but the words ring hollow. The audience can see through it, can see the way Rick uses his own pain as a weapon, the way he keeps Trisha off balance so she never has a chance to catch her breath. The looming family meeting is a ticking time bomb, and everyone is waiting to see if Rick will finally be held accountable, or if he'll find a way to slip through the cracks once again. Trisha's resilience is both inspiring and heartbreaking. She refuses to let Rick's anger define her, refuses to let his insecurities ruin her night. She takes a deep breath, straightens her shoulders, and tells him that she's not going to let the past dictate their future. She wants him to meet her family, wants to believe that things can get better, but the doubt is there, lurking beneath the surface. The audience is left wondering if Trisha's hope is enough to carry them through, or if Rick's need for control will finally push her too far. The cab pulls up outside her parents' house, and the tension is thick enough to choke on. Rick takes one last look at Trisha, searching her face for reassurance, for a sign that he's still in control. Trisha gives him a small, tired smile, but her eyes are clear. She's done apologizing, done making excuses, done letting Rick's insecurities run the show. The door opens, and the next chapter is about to begin. Will Trisha's family see through Rick's act, or will he manage to charm his way out of trouble one more time? The answer is waiting on the other side of that door, and nothing about this night is going to go as planned. If you think Rick's meltdown is over, you haven't seen what happens when family gets involved and the truth is forced into the open. The cab ride is thick with tension, every bump in the road echoing the cracks in Rick and Trisha's relationship. Rick sits rigid, arms crossed, jaw clenched, replaying every word Trisha said about her ex, as if he's searching for proof that she's still holding on to the past. Trisha, on the other hand, stares out the window, her reflection blurred by city lights, refusing to let Rick's insecurity drag her down any further. She's tired, but she's not broken. Every time Rick tries to pull her into another argument, she answers with calm, measured words, refusing to let his anger set the tone for the night. The silence between them is louder than any fight, and the closer they get to her parents' house, the more it feels like something is about to give. Rick's self-sabotage is almost textbook. He picks at old wounds, brings up past mistakes, and tries to convince Trisha that she's the one who needs to prove herself. But Trisha's resilience is stronger than he expects. She doesn't flinch, doesn't apologize for things she hasn't done. Instead, she draws a line, making it clear that she won't let his jealousy ruin her night or her relationship with her family. The cab driver glances in the rearview mirror, sensing the storm brewing in the back seat, but Trisha keeps her composure, determined to walk into her parents' house with her head held high. Meanwhile, across town, Joshua is pacing the apartment, nerves frayed, unable to shake the feeling that everything is slipping out of his control. Elise is quiet, packing away her things with a kind of careful precision that makes Joshua even more anxious. Chris watches from the sidelines, saying little, but his silence speaks volumes. He's seen Joshua spiral before, seen him make promises he can't keep, and he knows that Elise is starting to see through the cracks. Joshua tries to lighten the mood, cracks a joke about the tiny bathroom or the weird photo on the wall, but Elise isn't laughing. She's tired of pretending, tired of making excuses for a man who can't seem to put her first. Elise's doubts are growing by the minute. She replays every conversation, every awkward moment, every time Joshua chose Chris or a party over her. She wants to believe that things can change, that Joshua will finally step up, but the evidence is stacked against him. Chris's silent judgment hangs in the air, a reminder that even Joshua's best friend can see what's happening. Elise wonders if she's the only one who's been blind, if everyone else saw the truth long before she did. Both couples are teetering on the edge, secrets and lies swirling just beneath the surface. Rick is desperate to regain control, to make Trisha feel as insecure as he does, but Trisha refuses to play along. She's done letting his issues dictate her happiness, done letting his anger set the pace. Joshua, on the other hand, is running out of time. He knows he's hiding things, knows that Elise deserves better, but he can't bring himself to come clean. The fear of losing her is almost paralyzing, but the fear of being honest is even worse. The emotional fallout is inevitable. Trisha steels herself as the cab pulls up to her parents' house, ready to face whatever comes next. She knows her family will have questions, knows that Rick will try to charm his way out of trouble, but she's not going to let him off the hook this time. She's ready to stand her ground, to demand the respect she deserves, even if it means walking away. Rick senses the shift, sees the determination in her eyes, and for the first time, he realizes that he might not be able to talk his way out of this one. Back at the apartment, Elise finally speaks up. She tells Joshua that she's tired of feeling like a guest in his life, tired of competing with Chris and his party lifestyle. She wants more honesty, more commitment, more respect. Joshua tries to reassure her, but the words ring hollow. Chris watches, torn between loyalty to his friend and sympathy for Elise. The tension is thick, and everyone knows that something has to give. The breaking point is closer than anyone realizes. Rick and Trisha walk up to her parents' door, the weight of their argument still hanging between them. Joshua and Elise sit in silence, the distance between them growing with every passing minute. Secrets are about to come out, and no one is ready for the fallout. Who will finally snap, and what will be left standing when the dust settles? The answer is coming, and it's going to change everything. Joshua's hands tremble as he tries to pour himself a glass of water, the silence in the apartment pressing in from all sides. Elise sits on the edge of the bed, her suitcase half-zipped, her mind racing with every red flag she's tried to ignore. Chris lingers in the kitchen, pretending to scroll through his phone. But his eyes keep darting to Joshua, waiting for the moment when everything finally unravels. Joshua knows he can't keep dodging the truth. Elise's patience is running out, and the weight of what he's been hiding is starting to crush him. He starts to speak, voice low and shaky, admitting that things aren't as simple as he made them seem. He talks about the job he's barely holding on to, the money he lost, the mistakes he's made that he hoped would never come up. Elise listens, her face unreadable, but inside she feels a strange mix of relief and disappointment. She always knew there was more to the story, but hearing Joshua finally say it out loud makes it real. The trust she tried so hard to build feels fragile, like a glass that's already been chipped and is now one wrong move from shattering. Chris tries to jump in, offering excuses, saying everyone makes mistakes, but Elise holds up a hand. She wants to hear it from Joshua, wants to know if he's ready to be honest, not just with her, but with himself. Joshua looks at her, eyes pleading, and says he wants to change, that he's scared of losing her, that he's never felt this way before. Elise wants to believe him, but she's heard these promises before, from other men in other cities, and she knows that words are easy, but change is hard. She tells Joshua she needs time to think, that she can't keep pretending everything is fine, and the look on his face says he knows he's running out of chances. Meanwhile, across town, Rick stands in the hallway outside Trisha's parents' apartment, wiping his sweaty palms on his jeans. Trisha stands beside him, her back straight, her jaw set, ready to face whatever comes next. The door opens, and her parents greet them with cautious smiles, sensing the tension but trying to keep things light. Rick puts on his best charm, shaking hands, complimenting the house. But Trisha's father isn't fooled. He asks pointed questions, digging into Rick's past, his intentions, his plans for the future. Rick stumbles, caught off guard, and for a moment the mask slips. He tries to recover, but the damage is done. Trisha's mother watches quietly, her eyes sharp, picking up on every hesitation, every half-truth. The dinner is a minefield. Rick tries to steer the conversation away from anything personal, but Trisha's father keeps circling back, refusing to let him off the hook. Trisha sits quietly, watching the exchange, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction as Rick squirms. She spent so long trying to protect him, to smooth things over, but now she realizes that he needs to face the consequences of his actions. The more Rick tries to dodge, the more obvious it becomes that he's hiding something, and Trisha's parents aren't the type to let things slide. Halfway through the meal, Rick's frustration boils over. He snaps at Trisha, accusing her of setting him up, of making him look bad in front of her family. The room goes silent, and Trisha's father leans forward, his voice calm but firm, telling Rick that respect is earned, not demanded. Rick tries to backpedal, but the damage is done. Trisha looks at him, really looks at him, and sees the truth she's been avoiding. She realizes that no amount of love or patience will fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. The clarity hits her like a wave, and for the first time, she feels free. Back at the apartment, Elise sits alone, replaying Joshua's confession in her mind. She thinks about all the times she ignored her instincts, all the times she hoped things would get better if she just tried a little harder. She realizes that she deserves more than half-truths and broken promises. She deserves someone who chooses her, not someone who keeps her waiting while he figures himself out. The decision isn't easy, but it's clear. She tells Joshua she needs space, that she can't keep sacrificing her happiness for someone who isn't ready to meet her halfway. Joshua begs her to stay, promises to change, but Elise knows that real change takes more than words. Trisha, meanwhile, steps outside with her parents after dinner, leaving Rick alone at the table. Her father puts a hand on her shoulder, telling her that she deserves someone who treats her with respect, someone who makes her feel safe and valued. Trisha nods, tears in her eyes, finally letting herself believe it. She knows the road ahead won't be easy, but she's ready to start putting herself first. Rick sits alone, staring at his plate, realizing that he's lost control, that the story he tried to spin has finally unraveled. The fallout is messy, but it's honest. Elise and Trisha both find moments of clarity, moments where they see themselves not as victims, but as women who are strong enough to walk away from what doesn't serve them. But new questions linger. Will Joshua really change, or will he fall back into old habits? Will Rick try to win Trisha back, or will he move on to someone else? The answers aren't clear, and the future is wide open. As the night ends, Elise stands by the window, watching the city lights flicker, wondering what comes next. Trisha hugs her parents, feeling lighter than she has in months, but knowing that the hardest conversations are still ahead. Joshua sits alone, staring at the empty space where Elise's suitcase used to be, finally understanding what he stands to lose. Rick walks out into the night, his phone buzzing with unanswered messages, realizing that sometimes the biggest secrets are the ones we keep from ourselves. What happens when the truth finally comes out, and who will have the courage to walk away? The next chapter is about to begin, and you won't want to miss what happens when new faces arrive, old wounds are reopened, and the drama reaches a whole new level. If you thought this episode was wild, wait until you see who shows up next and how one unexpected arrival turns everything upside down.